So I don't know if this is something that everybody per se experiences. I gotta imagine most people, certainly myself. You go through life, and as you grow up, you form this sense of self, and you find things that you enjoy. You find things that you enjoy doing, interests, and you go through life kind of creating this sense of self, that you're good at doing things, or you enjoy things, or I think in most cases, especially for I guess I'll just use myself as an example. Going through school, growing up, school was something that I guess my brain was pretty compatible with the way that school was taught, or the education system that I was in. And so finding success, if you will, in school from a young age became something where I synonymized my success in school as my part of my sense of self. Basically, I go through school and it's like, oh, I'm good at school. What happens in life, what happens in really any case where you are involved in something and you have to demonstrate your ability or skill or knowledge of the thing. So school is a great example. I guess any sport, playing music. I think a lot of different things in life are this way. When you encounter challenges, you will either go the way of experiencing failure and learning how to work through that, or you will not experience failure and you will basically go down this track of spending an enormous amount of time and effort and energy into being as failure averse as possible. And I think one of the underlying reasons for this is because our sense of self is so deeply rooted in our abilities to do the things we think we're good at, or the things that we enjoy and have created this sense of self around. What happens, I think, when you stretch that, when you extend that out across a lifetime, across decades, over time, that aversion to failure becomes, like life is full of challenges. And if one of your core mechanisms of engaging with the world is the perception that if the world has things out there that are too hard or are scary, or I might fail, or I might, experience embarrassment because of failure, your world becomes really small and constricted, and the amount of confidence you have to go show up to different things in life just it becomes really minimized and constricted. And that's really hard. It's really hard to live in a way and to interact with the world in a way where you just don't feel like you can go out and do anything. Another way I've seen this kind of play out is you will encounter challenges, or you will, encounter things that are too hard for you, but you will pursue them. Maybe pursue isn't the right word, but you will, you will, like, I'm looking for the word. Basically, you'll interact with them reluctantly, with an attitude of not caring, not trying as hard as you possibly can. And basically, if you experience failure by not trying super hard in something, let's say it's a really hard like subject in school for you, or let's say it's a really hard like, let's say, I don't know, some example in sport, or if you play music, like it's a really complicated piece and it's going to be really hard to do. Like, by taking the mentality of not trying as hard as you can, when you experience failure, if you do, which you probably will, you get to leverage the fact that, oh, well, I didn't try as hard as I possibly could. And so you protect yourself in a way from feeling bad because you know deep down that you didn't try as hard. But similarly, extend that out over a lifetime, extend that out over decades, you will become somebody who similarly just doesn't try, doesn't care about life, and the limits of your world are really small. And I think as humans, it's really important that we challenge ourselves, that we find things that that we care about. I think being able to find meaning and value in life is a night and day difference for people that have a strong sense of this and people that don't. So what I want to encourage is, if you resonate with feeling that you don't have that strong sense of meaning and purpose in life, I mean, there's billions of ways I think that people arrive at feeling this way. But specifically, if you resonate feeling that way because of maybe you've noticed a pattern in yourself growing up where encountering challenges is something that you kind of weren't cautious to do, and maybe you over time can think of different examples in your life where the idea of something really challenging or the idea of failure is something that you either just told yourself, oh, I'm not going to try as hard as I possibly can, and you went that route. Like if this is something that resonates with you, my encouragement is look for ways to approach resolving this by failing. Try to fail more. And what has been helpful for me is finding ways to introduce myself to it kind of gradually, but also consistently. So if you've ever, there's this idea for people that don't run, but then want to run. One of the very common goals in running for beginners is like running a 5 kilometers or approximately 3 miles. And so there are programs that are out there, structured programs that facilitate somebody who maybe has never run ever in their life, or not a lot, or is very out of shape, or whatever. There are structured programs that guide you from not running to running 5 kilometers. And it's definitely not the case where in the first week of the program you go run as hard or as long as you possibly can. It's a guided process, and the main point there is consistency. So similarly, thinking about increasing your exposure to failure and encountering failure, I think there's wisdom in pursuing it the way that a structured program for somebody who doesn't run to go hit their first milestone in running. I think there's wisdom to be learned there. And I think that focusing on consistency more than anything is going to be the most helpful thing here. Something in my own life that I found and that I kind of use as a vehicle for myself to expose myself consciously in experiencing failure is rock climbing. Rock climbing is like, it's so hard. And if it isn't hard for you, try something harder, and you will encounter failure, like no matter what in rock climbing. And so for myself, it's pretty much what rock climbing has become for me, or at least one aspect of it is, again, a vehicle for me to consciously expose myself to failure so that my overall psychology, my overall sense of self, and my overall sense of self, like I can grow as a person by becoming more tolerant through and self-coaching through failure, and again in like a controlled, safe way, if you will. Like I can choose to just try something that's not that hard for me to do physically, and then I don't experience that failure. But when I approach that threshold of where like I know I'm going to fail, and I'm like right on that line, and I'm pushing myself as hard as I can, like I can choose to put myself in that environment, and I can choose to like regularly train myself by just putting myself in positions to fail. And what it's become for me is not only that, but it's something quite enjoyable. So it's adding value to my life. It's helping me improve. It's helping me grow. And yeah, for somebody whose whole life growing up, especially, self-organized around failure aversion, trying to not try as hard about life or not care as much about different things because I was too afraid of experiencing the weight of embarrassment or the weight and shame of failure. It kind of, I realized that it brought me to a place in life, in thinking, mentally, and my self-image of myself, that just I didn't really like, and made it kind of hard to go through life, and it wasn't enjoyable. So again, like if you resonate with feeling just kind of bummer, or if you resonate with, times if you can reflect on times in life where you felt like, yeah, I also kind of gave up caring about certain things. Maybe I just avoided challenges. Maybe I feel like the options in my life are pretty limited at the moment. Maybe because of like the things that I've done or the fear of challenge or failure. Like, see if you can find something where you can, like expose yourself slowly but consistently to failure, and do that. And yeah, see what happens if you do it for a little bit. That's all I got. Hope that's helpful.